on the lady, do it naturally. It's all in me. I can read your thoughts right now. Everyone from A to Z. Oh, I can cast a spell, secrets you can't tell. Mix a special brew with fire inside of you. Anytime you feel danger or fear, instantly I will appear. Hello and welcome, everyone. You are tuned in when women step up. We are here to highlight the accomplishments of women who are the agents of change in our community. I am Autumn Hartpence, your guest host for today. Dr. Kimberly is still under the weather, so our guest today is Army veteran Shontaze Jones, who is the director of Heroes Corner. Welcome, Shontaze. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you.
Well, glad to have you today. So, I'm a veteran in the Grand Rapids area, and I've never actually heard of Heroes Corner until probably 2 days ago.
Oh, see, we're gonna get caught up.
I don't know if it's because I get to be such a busy individual that I just don't branch out. So first, before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, you were in the Army. When was that?
So I was in the Army Reserves
Okay.
from 2004 to 2007 unit. Sorry, my son. I'm a single mother.
I'm a single mom too.
I went into unit supply specialist, and as I went through my medical discharge, I switched over to a 42 Lima, which was a unit administrator. So hi.
Hi.
And I served a little bit over 3 years.
Okay. What was one of the things that you loved most about being in the military?
I'm sorry, Autumn, could you repeat that?
Well, what's one of the things you love most about being in the military?
Honestly, supply. Just supply in itself, because you make so many friends. I was a specialist, so it's like, you're the little person almost, but being in supply, everyone wants to be your friend. Everyone, you're tied into everyone. So
you got the stuff. That's why you're a supply person. You're like, I need this in order to do my job. So if I want to get it first, because we know of inventory,
you're gonna
I
be
was
nice.
maintenance. So yeah, I was always friends with the supply person. So I understand. I'm Air Force myself. So, but I totally understand that position. All right. Are you originally from Michigan?
Yeah. Well, yes. I was born here in St. Joseph, but I was raised in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, until about 1996, and we moved back here, and I've pretty much been here ever since.
Okay. I love Michigan. I'm not originally from Michigan, but then there's days like today are like, yeah, I'm still okay being here because the benefits outweigh the negative things for me.
Yeah.
Just especially being in the service and being well traveled, that you kind of like appreciate. There's that one place that sticks out to you the most.
You really just hit it. I'm still gonna be like at heart Louisiana, even though I've been here most of my life, because that's my family, that's home for us. However, being here, it does present more veteran benefits, especially for veterans like my dad, and my uncles who have come before me, and they've served and they fought for their benefits, still in line fighting for their benefits. And my dad, when they lived in Louisiana, there are not a lot of benefits, especially not at your fingertips in Louisiana, versus you come here, you have housing, school, you have just a few more supports in Michigan and Grand Rapids.
Yeah. I definitely love, one of the things most about Michigan is the country city ratio. You don't feel completely overwhelmed. I grew up in Orlando, and it's overrated to me. And it just has so much more of like a family oriented environment. It's a great place to raise my daughter. I'm close with family anyway. So those are the things that kind of stand out why I stayed in Michigan, even on days where the weather is just the bigger picture of is why I love staying here. So after you got out, talk about your journey up to that point, how you got into this position. I want to hear your story.
So after I got out, it was pretty rough. I was fighting to stay in, but I had hemolytic, I believe they're calling it now, anemia. Um, and my hemoglobin would not stay nowhere near the regulate 12. So you can't be anything below a 12. So unfortunately, in my family, we all carry anemia and we stay in the sixes and the sevens. So I couldn't hide it any longer. Then that was one of the challenges because my dad's, again, he was active duty Army. My nephew is currently serving. My niece has served.
That's
Uncles and
awesome.
such. Yeah, it was just in our blood. In high school, I did 4 years of JRTC, battalion commander. The Major John Anderson Award. I strive to get everything a cadet could get. So I was devastating, honorably discharging, but under a medical situation. After which I decided to just pour into careers or different jobs. And I really spun around for a while. I buried myself with 3 jobs at a time because nothing was enough. Because that's how I treated myself. I'm like, you didn't finish your 8-year contract. You didn't go overseas. You didn't do anything special. I treated myself really horribly in that sense. But then there was so many opportunities that started to come. And it wasn't until 2016 when I moved to Grand Rapids that I really started diving into the community part of things, and it started feeding me again. Just volunteering, connecting with people like Dr. Kim and other veterans who are already established here in the area, and creating like this network. And it took the last 8 or so years, but it was well worth it. Um,
So I'm going to resonate with you there because January would have been my 7th year out of the military, and to think back about my own journey when I got after 14 years of being active duty, and the same thing, you feel like a heavy weight that you didn't complete what you set out for. But we don't ever think about, was that really our destiny in the first place, or was that just part of the journey? And I think it's where a lot of veterans just feel so like trying to grasp onto things of like, do I belong here? Do I belong here? Do I belong here?
oh yeah.
Because we have to have that, that purpose. That's something that makes us feel accepted into this new role, because my entire adult life was military, and it's like, who's this new version of Autumn? So to hear you say that, I completely empathize with what you went through, because, women like us, we are survivors, we are strivers. We do spread ourselves so thin to feel that thing. And then not only that, but we wanted to do to be an example of others. Like, if I can do it, you do it. Like, I wasn't given a silver spoon. I wasn't given these opportunities. I worked night and day for it. And, it gives me like an awe moment to hear you go through that same thing, because it definitely makes me feel not alone to
No,
hear other women who just divide and conquer.
that's why
And
advocacy is so important in advocating for things that we believe in, advocating for change,
yeah,
advocating for removing barriers, pulling in inclusion, diversity more. But as
oh yeah.
females, we know too well that as female veterans or females, period, that we have more to prove, if you will, than a lot of others. And we may be the stronger ones, but it's almost like we have to prove that we're as strong as we already are. But when another woman or lady tells her story, yes, it does make you feel powerful, actually, because it's like, oh, I did get through that, or I'm going through that. So if she can, I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So tell me a little bit about Heroes Corner, since I'm not familiar with it. I'm sure our viewers might not feel in the same boat as me. So please tell me, what is
Uh,
Hero Corner about?
Heroes Corner Grand Rapids was founded in recently, 1 year ago, on February 2nd. However,
Mhm.
myself, Reginald Howard, and a few other veterans, Jimmy Warren, Al Kidd, Joshua Smith, Patch Adams, we all got together after years and years of honestly peer support and volunteering and just being in the community and being effectual. And we had to create Heroes Corner. We saw a lot of our fellow veterans, family members giving up before they got to the line to even receive services or help. They were so over just the VA as a whole. And VA just had a bad sourness in everyone's mouth. But we also had like that open door. where you can
Yeah.
come in and you can ask a question, or we can brainstorm and figure it out together. And we all got together and we was like, let's do this. Reginald Howard, he made a phone call to me. We talked, and then we got with the rest of our team, and we said we have to do this. Our platform of the mission is about resources, but it's about that fellowship and social. So you can stand in line and give out resources, but when you put it into a room of sober and like-minded individuals, and we share amongst ourselves, it's not traditional, but it works. You don't feel ashamed, and they don't have any type of fear of saying, I need help.
Which is very important.
Yeah, imagine how many veterans really are. Like, in the very beginning, I'm just reminded that was a veteran who was sleeping on the floor. Although he's in various VA programs, he didn't tell anyone. But when he came to Heroes Corner, where we started at Marge's Donuts, he let us know, we took care of it. But he didn't feel comfortable speaking to his worker. He didn't feel comfortable or, telling anyone, but he felt comfortable telling us. And we encourage other veterans to use the VA and the services and the community resources. We encourage the positive sides, and we encourage our veterans to speak up so that we can change. A lot of little fish is worth worth way more than one big fish. So we all get together and say, let's move on this line. You guys are having problems with connecting with our office. Well, let's get together and let's figure this out. And we work together.
That is awesome. We're going to put a pin in this real quick and just say today's episode is brought to you from When Women Step Up, sponsored by Busy Mama Wellness, is coaching for personal development, specializing in time, stress, and management for busy moms. So if you have any busy moms in your life that knows that needs some help with their mental wellness, or just kind of want to get on track with either their finances, time management, or just some way to deal with their stress, go to www.busymamawellness.com. So, and it's got a cool little logo just like this. So, not the last episode, but the one before, Dr. Kim and I were doing what I do with my business now, and along the same lines, not helping veterans specifically. I kind of wanted to go past that point of what I do now in life as a busy mom, a single parent. And a lot of that resonates. And I wanted to kind of think of the other side of that for veterans because of what the spouses go through. So if you have a veteran with PTSD and then has a spouse at home who's taking care of kids, and that's a lot of stress going on in a household. And sometimes that veteran just can't grasp that clarity enough to function, and they rely more on their spouse to be able, and this is assuming that spouse being women, to take care of everything. And that's a lot. And I started thinking about it and talking with, women who are the military spouse. It's like, how do you function with having a spouse with PTSD and then have postpartum depression on top of what you have now? So for you being a single mom, and I mean, your son is how old?
He just turned 5.
So you think back at that moment 5 years ago when you're just trying to juggle everything, and then of course having all the joys that comes with being a brand new mother. That I have to say that is a superpower. That is an absolute superpower that just resonates that I got this. And that's what I do with coaching is remind people that we are literally built to do this. And we are stronger than what we give ourselves credit for. So all the things that you have been through, I absolutely have such admiration for women like you and you yourself. So, and now what you're doing, you ended up in this role as a director. So deep dive a little bit more into that. How did you end up in this kind of position, and what's your role with Heroes Corner?
I was forced against my will. So again,
you're like, she's a superstar. She has to do this. Knife hands and everything. You have to.
Right. The beautiful part about Heroes Corner again is that we're all fellow veterans, but we all been together for so long. I've never been a part of anything like this. The group of guys, I'm the only female in our original, concept and initiative of this. And I'm one of the younger ones, so it's like, but I'm so comfortable. I'm around my friends, my peers, and they are just amazing group of guys, but it carried us so long. It carries us to this day. Our communication, our way of working together, we each do a different piece of Heroes Corner. When you get in there, like yesterday, we had a Soul Filled Tuesday. The spirit don't leave you. I am still motivated and I'm energized today just because of what took place in that site yesterday, changing veteran lives. Also educating families of veterans. You just kind of touched on that. We really believe in educating our veteran families.
I think that's crucially important.
How
And
can
it's
a
something that's I think is almost the missing ingredient when it comes to the more sensitive issues of, like, let's say veteran suicide. How are the families noticing, because they're with them all the time, and to
Mhm.
teach families, like, how do you recognize change? Because as busy moms, we get so caught up in routine. It's the checklist of our day, it's the time structure of the day, it's the kids, it's the work, it's the job, it's the bills.
Oh yeah,
Well, what's going on with your veteran? Do you notice a change? Well, he's always like that.
and
Is
to
that
be able to
not
communicate.
anymore? But I think that's awesome that you're focusing, because I think that's an untapped, need. So go ahead. I'm
Yeah, the education of
so fascinated by what you do. I'm like, oh my gosh.
but it is that untouched, that part that is missing. Referring to our vision statement, we use about a bridge of support. We already have these infrastructures and we already have so many organizations and businesses and veteran services, no matter who funds them, in place. There are some really, really good resources already right here. So no need to recreate the wheel, but you do have to build a bridge so that the veteran and the family member can cross it to get directly to it. So not only do we vet the resources, we sit down and do one-on-ones, phone calls, emails, accommodation. We accommodate them to make sure, like, if you're not a good texter or emailer, well, guess what? Call me on the phone. Stop in, drop in anytime we're open. You need a second to pull one of us out? Sure. Or just come join the room itself and you just listen and hear about things. But that family member always is the one that gets lost, because unfortunately, when it comes time to bury our veterans, they're not buried in honor because their family members are not educated as to what's available,
Oh
what is
yeah.
already covered, but what could be covered. What are these organizations that are not funded by the VA but support our veterans? So, and they have so much funding and so much help. But if the veteran family member does not know that, the first thing they're going to do is go fund me and bury our veterans at the nearest, plot, because that's what they feel they have to do.
Yeah.
Educating them that most family members have benefits too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just created that as part of our services because it was a missing link. And hearing voices of our veterans for over 10 years now, and them saying, hey, look, my wife don't understand. They're isolating, as Reggie say, isolating in their basements, which is true, because they don't even want to take part in their family, because to them, their family are strangers now. They don't understand what they're going through. So we
Yeah.
have to bring the families in and bring them on board, um, to do this mission. That's the only way, really.
Do you offer, like, counseling for different subjects, or different topics rather?
We do that. We'll resource that out, but we do have, again, Reggie, who is a certified peer support specialist.
Hmm.
And to highlight a great thing about having a certified peer support specialist as the founder and as a partner or everything, on site, they already know him. This man's done so much work in this community that they come to him and they talk to us, or they'll come and talk to Reggie as a friend, as a peer support, rather than a VA worker or actual, therapist that they may not talk out. They may mention some
Right.
things, but not really get that the severeness, of what they're going through out. So I do think that that plays a big part in us too, being different or being set aside. We don't know of any other sober drop-in centers such as Heroes Corner. Um, Nowhere near us, which is another good thing, because again, we're not wanting to recreate the wheel. We want to strengthen the already fosters that are in place. Did you see how families are being included? Kent County Veteran Services have been amazing when
Yeah.
including our kids. That's another
It's
change.
long overdue. That's
Yes.
something that we should have done many years ago. And as a vet, like, that's that's what frustrates me the most, is we have all the pieces, but we're just somehow not bridging the gap the way
Yeah.
that we need to. And it's So, and this is just personal opinion when I think this is like the VA focuses on trying to put in preventative measures for things and they focus on the veterans. And I'm like, you need to focus on the system and let resources like ours and all these other nonprofit organizations that are meant to help veterans, let us help the veterans, refer you to the system. And if you
Mhm.
have a good system, guess what? It starts to fix itself.
And let us refer them not, I think one of the barriers with the VA is they have a vision of an older male veteran. And that's where
Yes.
it's, there is nothing kind of outside of that. And I don't mean to be so harsh when I say that, but when you look at it, that's it. It's the older male veteran is the picture of what a veteran is. And, you know, and they run with that. Places like, and I'm pointing out Kent County Veteran Services, Rachel Wutzman over there, because I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's so amazing at how fast she's moving with incorporating the family and the art workshops, which we're partnering at Heroes Corner and has an
That's
art
awesome.
workshop this weekend on the 25th. But just doing those things, the bowling, the arcades, all of those things, she is showing that with veterans, we can reach a whole nother population of mothers as well as, you know, dads or other family members. But for me as a single mother, for yourself as a mother and a veteran, it is a breath of fresh air to have something that I can take my kid to.
Yeah.
My kid can't go to VFW and Legion Post, you know, and we love
Yeah.
them, but reality is I have a 5-year-old, you know, so his surroundings and his environment is critical to
Yeah.
his growth. I can take him
Yeah.
to the VA, but that's a clinic. So by what they're doing just in their fight alone, it is really changing and opening the doors. It also changes the identity of a veteran. It brings us out. Yeah. So.
That's awesome. I mean, you think about just I don't want to say it's not so much disappointment's not the word I'm looking for, but be 2023 and still have to like, yeah, I'm the vet is kind of like, come on now, don't. But we still have this image and this stigma out there, the same way, the same statistics in the news. So I joined in 2002. It was 22 a day then, and it's still the same number. That's not the correct number, but it's the number that like they've kind of signified as more of an average. And kind of being on both sides to being like the coaching part of things just with people because even before doing this with moms, I did veteran coaching, I did business coaching, and now that things had changed in my life, I'm like, this is the direction I want to go. I want to help things at home because if you're mentally well here, everything else follows suit. And having that, using that metaphor of like airplane safety, I talk about this all the time. Like when you're on airplane, you put on your own mask first before you assist others.
Right.
Because how are you supposed to take care of things? And this goes like spread across all of those issues that come up. Is you got to be able to learn how to take care of yourself first in order for other things to start to heal. So talking with veterans, I'm like, all right, so how do we get you back to a good place? So all those things that are feel like it's just an avalanche on you, your finances, your job, your relationship with your spouse or your significant other, things. Because when you're clouded in your judgment, everything else just becomes like this high-pitched noise and you can't think clearly, you can't sleep, and you start to just
Oh, man.
physically feel exhausted, and it's just a snowball effect of that. And this is where veterans start to kind of get into this dark road. And with all these programs saying like you have so much to live for, all these things. What I love about what you said is we actually give them the one-to-one because I think that's what lacks the absolute most. So if I'm looking for VA resources, they'll give me phone numbers of other people to call, and it's easy to get government money, but I'm like, realistically, I need you to kind of sit me down and just give it to me straight, like have this intimate conversation of like,
Visualize me
what
because
do you really need? Because for me, I got laid off. I was one of the 60,000 people who just got laid off because that's business for you. And then going to the VA to try to, like, look, I haven't had to look for a job in over 4 years. Like, so, I need help with a resume and like, what's the job market like? And, I got a bunch of phone numbers and, these resources I had to look for it. And it was hard. And I'm an educated person and I'm pretty well grounded. And if it's hard for me, I know it's sure as hell hard for somebody else, for people who come into your door. And it's like, why is this even happening? Like, I shouldn't be able to make it easy to get government funding. I should be given tools to be a successful civilian now.
It should already be in that account waiting on me to.
No, I just yeah. So I think it's awesome what you guys are doing, and it's really well needed. Because for someone who's not heard of this, who have been having struggling with the VA resources, I know they're there. I just don't know how to find them. Because all it does is just lead me from one thing to another thing. And it's like, well, we can talk about if you have, if you have mental problems. I'm like, well, I didn't before I started trying to find help through the VA. I'm more stressed out now than when I started. And
And
that should not be the case.
not even to rag on the VA mental health services, but being one who has been an inpatient of it 3 times, and not having one positive outcome from 3 different locations of being an inpatient. And mind you, this is for 2 weeks plus at a time. So we're talking about 6 weeks spent in mental health for anxiety disorders, which you're put in with every other mental health patient in the VA. There's no individualizing there as well. So what that does is turn people against, going into a mental health facility with the VA, and then now they're isolating again, or they're, contemplating negative things. So another reason why a place like Heroes Corner to drop in was a necessity for our community. Um, they come in and they just grab that remote, and that's just simple as that. No one's gonna say why you grabbing the remote or watching TV. We encourage you to, grab you a snack. Don't ask the person, oh, can I have one? No, you walk up to that grab shelf and you grab yourself a snack. um, I just imagine how many people or how many people we've spoken to that were just so hungry but wouldn't grab something for the embarrassment of it. But it's the
Yeah.
mentality of a military hero. No matter which branch, a military hero can serve 2 days and they still feel as though prideful that I don't want to ask or beg nobody for nothing. So if I go to 2 resources and they close the door on me, I'm done. Because
Yeah.
anything beyond that is technically begging. So
Yeah.
removing all that unnecessaries out of their way, removing the barriers of going to the wrong place 3 times when they could have been sent right down the road for a voucher that can help them today. It's the most simple fix, but it's the most critical in our system of veterans, their families, and getting help with resources and services. But our female veterans are being lost, honestly, in the system. Our
Yeah.
female veterans are not, and let me re-say this, Autumn. Not only our female leaders, our female heroes are being lost and overshadowed and not being in the forefront as we should be. I think Dr. Kimberly Kennedy and several others who will continuously shine the light on female heroes and where we have been working, but where we need to be highlighted and shine upon.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome what you're doing because it's so needed. And that's you hit the nail on the head. It's as service members, we are trained that we are the heroes. We're the ones that do. We do not ask. We're the ones who find you things. And once you take the uniform off, it's kind of like, all right, well, where do I stand to be able to have that continuance of service? And that was kind of my mentality getting out of the Air Force was just because my uniform came off didn't mean that my service had stopped.
There you
So
go.
this is kind of where getting plugged back in and like networking has really been what made transitioning a lot easier. So it's really refreshing to hear you do the same and now paying that forward to other people of like, it doesn't have to be this hard. It really doesn't.
Every one person has to answer. And when you come together and collab and network, man, it's like all the pieces come together and you'd be like, that's what it was. This is how that bridge get built brick by brick, piece by piece. Everybody put one in for, we got one of the strongest built, bridges that you can ever ask for.
Yeah. And I think it's beautiful that and I've never even stepped foot, but I can already tell that the aura and the environment that you display is there's no shame here. There's no such thing as, you don't need to be afraid of things. And you're not alone because there's people in there who have walked that same journey and are okay. And that's what we need is we need something tangible to actually see and it not feel like therapy because even as a strong woman, I don't want to have my vulnerabilities tapped out. No matter whatever I've gone through in life, sometimes you just want to leave that be because you feel like you're in a good place to move forward. I don't need to have that stuff dug back up. You know,
And
sometimes we just find self healing on our own to move forward. And I think that's beautiful that you guys really kind of not have to say, well, how do you even get to that point? Be like, well, you're here now. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
And we share openly, you know. We're not quiet on our personal disabilities. We joke all the time. Marge's Donuts, who we love Marge, Marilyn, that whole team over there. They oftentimes they donate us these tons of donuts, and we always
Awesome.
speak about diabetes, some of our most familiar medical. And I'm like, I'm a diabetic, you know, but we have this environment, Autumn, that people talk openly about diabetes, about PTSD, whether it be war related or sexually trauma, or it's such an open floor that, again, you hear veterans say, I haven't talked about this in 15 years. You know, I
Yeah.
haven't even spoken with nobody. And then they'll come in and that room fills up. It's a small site, but we fill it up. And the stories that go around, there are tears that get shed, there are smiles to be had. But at the end of the day, we know that we're changing the lives of someone, and if we can't fix it in one day, we're making steps in the, you know, in the direction of, and we're gonna follow up. We're gonna follow up, and we're gonna get
Good.
on you. That's another thing. We're gonna get on you and hold you accountable to your personal goals. Or if
That's
we,
so important too. That is very important when it's like, because you give people the tools. And when I was going through my show with Dr. Kim, and I was telling her, I was like, you give me the tools, but you're asking me to build an engine. That's not what I do. This is why I came to you to help. Like, you can give me the tools and give me instructions, and I'll try, but that's
help you,
not what I came
do
here
it
for.
for you. We're not gonna
Yeah,
do
and I think that's awesome. So, I mean, as the veterans I do network with, we look for stuff like what you have all the time. So, do you have like future goals of maybe expanding to different parts of Michigan so it's available for other vets that maybe live in the north, the west, or the east, south?
absolutely. So, we wasn't even 2 weeks in of Heroes Con that we were meeting at Marge's Donuts, and we have already entertained and reviewed interest from Muskegon, Detroit, Lansing. It was like a no-brainer when we opened, and we were just one day a week at that time. But we have the growing interest of, can we open the Heroes Con here and there, has, yeah, it grows.
Yeah.
And the area is getting further and further. So right now we're working on obtaining our 501c3.
Okay.
We're also always working on more fundraising. We have two committees, one of which is a fellowship and activities committee at Heroes Corner. Those are mostly guy heavy. All the guys are members of that committee. And one of the things we saw when we started Heroes Corner from the beginning to now is that our female veterans they were missing in our population. We addressed that, and we come up with Lady Heroes. I'm sorry, Lady Heroes as the next committee that will be starting next month. We'll do our first meeting and start. We needed to do a Lady Heroes committee because, again, our women were missing, but also shining the light on shining the light that a lot of things that get done are done by us women. But also encouraging our women veterans who come out and have a voice to effect change. Encouraging them to show up and say, hey, I was in the Air Force, I was in the Army, I served. A lot of us, we kind of do this when it comes to, saying that we served or what we did. Lady Heroes being a committee, we encourage that. We encourage our women to be in charge. We encourage them to take charge of events at Heroes Corner or initiatives to work with other organizations who are shining a light on our women as well.
I mean, I love it. I love the whole essence of having your heroes and your sheroes.
And we've learned, Autumn, you know this, that they don't always be a veteran. They're not always a veteran.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you is, sorry to interrupt, but like, now you said it was open one day a week. Is it still, what's your hours of operation now?
We are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we have a site on 44th Street and out in Kentwood. And we open every day unless the snow says otherwise. Yeah. Our goals are really to expand far as our site. So our site is probably a little bit under 500 square feet. Okay. And we can accumulate, 20 to up people in one day. We never know how many people are coming in. That's a good thing, but we never know. And our site as of yesterday, even doing a soul filled Tuesday with food. Um,
Okay.
Stayed because of the joy, but had we had 10 more people, what were we going to do? Had we had 5 more people? So those who want to stay kind of have to interlock, come out and come in. That's a barrier. And it's also something that is a little bit constricting to what we're trying to do or what we are doing. The door is open, but we're limited by the amount of space we have and what we can afford right now.
That's awesome. Hi, Shauna. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. So, Shauna, I got a question. If you run across veterans who are, let's say, retired, 100% disabled, they don't work, do you have like volunteers that come in and maybe have like special talents that they can kind of help contribute to your programs? Like, someone who teaches, I don't know, various talents. I can't even like think of off the top of my head, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes. So right now, like when we started Heroes Corner, we were all volunteers. So
Okay.
whole first year, everyone did it from our hearts and our spirits and our goal, motivations and such. We have Miss Sonia and we have Miss Jan. They're both volunteers. One of which is our board vice president. Sorry. And our board secretary. These two women are just amazing women. They are not veterans, however, they are spouses of veterans. They are family members of veterans. They've been with us since day one. They're with the VFW Post 702. They have been volunteering for over 30 years. We have another young lady, Miss Shirley Taylor, who volunteers. She shares legal services. Our social media, one of our group pages, she maintains beautifully. And everyone that's been with Heroes Corner is a volunteer.
Awesome.
And when someone shows interest in volunteering, we try to find either assignments, but there's always something you can do. A volunteer for Heroes Corner simply can come in and sit down and start talking with another veteran. In our drop-in, that is a volunteer service because sometimes that's all our veteran needs or all they can handle at the time. So, that's our volunteer side of it.
That's awesome. I mean, I know some people who just need to feel that plugged in, especially retired individuals, and to actually learn about what you do at this point. It's kind of like, oh, now I have somewhere to like point those individuals that I'm talking to. It's like, hey, I'm retired. My kids moved out of the house. Like, what do I do now? Or other individuals that just want to feel like they contribute because they didn't actually have the opportunity to serve. And I never want to make someone feel uncomfortable because it just seems to be a natural reaction when you tell someone, hey, I was in the military, and then they respond like, well, I almost served. It's like, I don't even know how to respond to that sometimes because it's like, that's unfortunate. You can't. But what you can do, if you really want to help our veterans and feel like a part of our community, be a part of our community in other ways by volunteering. You don't actually have to wear the uniform to make us a better country. It's just good-hearted people helping, being each other, and extending kindness, which we don't do enough of.
Absolutely. And it's again back to it's the simplest thing. Sometimes the easiest parts of everything that we do is what's missing, but it's right there. It's like the easiest part. Be nice, be kind, offer kindness to someone first. Listen. Big part of any organization we can ever open is listening to the individual. What are they going through, and then what's significant to them of where we send them next. They may not be able to qualify for this particular place, but let's not stop looking, and let's let this veteran or their family member sit with us and see the process that we're going through. Some things are done behind the scenes, but a lot of things are done side by side so that they see, oh, I see what you mean. I shouldn't call a million places before I study these places or match my qualifications and stuff, such with them.
Gotcha. So do you guys, or does your group do like events for the community? Is it something you do quarterly? Is it something that just if you have the resources? Like, how do you extend out to the community more?
Oh, and getting involved. Again, we're built on veterans with lived experience, and we have already done so much in the community. So it's honestly, Autumn, it's really easy to reach out to different organizations say we want to be a part, or we already are. We're looking forward to like the stand down coming up. We have always been involved or in some way, shape, or form volunteering for that event. We want to volunteer even more. We want to be a effectual part of that, the homeless veteran stand down this year and every year. Most of the resource fairs that has happened around the community, you have seen our faces before.
Okay.
Our events of like we just did a soul field Tuesday, which was full of soul food yesterday. What that did was it was outreach, but it also brought fellowship of new and older friends together and peers, and network. We had people drive down from Muskegon, Kalamazoo. We even had someone come all the way down from Detroit just to attend that particular event. Every year we do a Christmas party, which Reggie started for a while back, years and years. I don't even know how old this party is, but it is a sober event. It goes on every single year. This past December, we did it sponsored by Heroes Corner Grand Rapids. And even in a snowstorm, it turned out well over 130 people in a storm.
Wow.
We just really encourage the sober social, things. Over the year, we'll be partnering with a lot of other organizations. King County Veterans Services, absolutely, will continue to strengthen our connection with them, our partnership with them. There's a few coalitions that we would love to get on board with, and we're always encouraging this in our team too. We also encourage our own education and training, so we do that as well. But yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any events coming up that our viewers might be interested in?
So be on the lookout for our 1 year anniversary event. We turn 1 year on February 2nd. We are waiting on a few final details for our date. Within the next month, we will be posting in regards to our meet and greet, our event for celebrating the 1 year, celebrating everyone who has helped us, and more events to come. And we will be releasing a event calendar on our website as well as our Facebook page.
Okay. And what's so you have a Facebook page or you have a website, or how can people find out more?
Our webpage is heroescornergrandrapids.org.
Is it the whole word? Is it GR?
Yes, Heroes Corner Grand Rapids, the whole word.org. And our Facebook page is also Heroes Corner.
Okay.
Heroes Corner Grand Rapids. We have a group page and we have our main page. But if you type in Heroes Corner Grand Rapids, Heroes being HEROS, Grand Rapids, then you should be able to find us with no problem.
Okay, that's so awesome. Like I will have, so after this, I'll be checking you guys out because I have a bunch of different resources that I think would be great connections for you guys, for what you guys are doing. And like I said, this was the first time heard of it. And now that I know that you guys even exist, because I live in the northern part, not that far north, but still, it's, I can't tell you how many people I've run across, especially with women veterans who just, they don't want to even feel involved because there's still sign of that separation. That's like, this is still feeling almost like a misfit in the veteran community. And
we're not on the front lines, but we are on the front lines.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a different, mindset being a woman in the military. And I think that we play on each other's different strengths. And that's something that really needs to be highlighted too, about, if we do talk about gender roles, what we actually all bring to the table to be successful in different experiences, different branches, different jobs, all of that plays a part. So thank you, Shauna. We appreciate you. All right, we are at 15 still. So do you have any last final thoughts for the group? Anything else that you'd like to share about Heroes Corner, or any words of advice you have for our listeners out there?
I would say that we do still have one position open that we're hiring for, which is a volunteer resource coordinator. We are hiring for that position between $13 and $15 an hour, part-time position with a weekly remote day option. You can email your resume to heroescorner1@gmail.com. That is HEROS Corner1@gmail.com. We encourage anyone who loves to be on the computer, but who has had previous experience with resources in the community to send in your resume, and we'll review it and get back with you as soon as possible.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time, and it is so awesome to actually meet and talk with you because I love learning. I love to know that what's out there. Just because I've had my struggles being a vet. I mean, I've come a long way in the last 7 years, but there are still times it's kind of like, all right, what else is out there to help people? Because that's kind of the whole thing about being a battle buddy. Is like I don't want to be just a good listener. I want to be a good, you know, person to just say, hey, you need to do this, and these are the people going to help you, not just get numbers. So thanks so much for joining. I think people just need to dance more. That's why they need to feel better. Just let loose. Put your hair down.
That's gonna be in my head all day. It's all in me. I can read the thoughts right now. Everyone from A to Z.